Hypertubes, a Tier 4 unlock that is arguably one of the best pioneer transportation methods, where you would be walking between factories, having to focus on where you are going. The Hypertube allows you to enter one end, then lean back and relax until you shoot out the other. This is all fine and dandy for connecting one location to another, but what happens if you want to link your whole factory together in one massive transport network? Well, you have two options. You could link all the Hypertubes to one central hub, but then your travel times go through the roof and you have to remember where each tube goes and figure out which one to take. So if that's not good, what's the other option? Hypertube Junctions. A system that allows you to swap between two destination Hypertubes from one origin Hypertube. The standard, wildly accepted Hypertube Junction swaps between the two destination tubes based on what direction key you press. If you press left, you go into the left tube, and vice versa with right. It's simple. But this junction has a couple of issues. First off, when entering the junction, you must be facing the direction that the junction faces when you hold left or right. Otherwise, you're gonna come to a halt and reverse in the tube, or swap to the wrong tube. Secondly, remember what I said about Hypertubes allowing you to lean back and relax? Well, if you have a network where you have one main tube that goes all around the map, and you have intermittent junctions in it that allow you to break off and go to a factory in a similar way to bus stops or train stops, then it completely removes the ability to lean back. For every single junction you pass on the main tube, you have to face the correct direction and press the correct button in order to stay on the main track. I encountered one of these issues for the billionth time when I was riding my Hypertube last night, and I paused for a bit, and I thought, there has to be a better way to do this. So I got to work designing, and I am proud to present to you the TSL Hypertube Junction, the junction that solves all of these problems and more. When a pioneer enters this junction, all they have to do is crouch or not crouch to swap tubes. It's even simpler than the standard junction. This means you don't have to worry about what direction you are facing. It also means you can have one main line where you can sit back and relax through all the junctions until you hit your stop. Then you just crouch and swap off the main line to your destination of choice. Now, this is not to say that there's no cons to this junction. It is larger than the standard junction, taking up more space, materials, and power. But these are not issues in most cases. Another feature of the TSL Junction is that it's a one-way junction. Now don't panic. I will show you how to make one-way valves that allow you to turn it into a two-way junction. But this allows you to have a junction that you can only use going one way. And if you're going the other way, you could just skip over it, meaning these junctions are a lot more customizable than the standard. Now, before we get into the tutorial and rundown, I'm going to do something I do not normally do. This junction can save a lot of pain in Hypertube networks, and because of that, I want to teach as many people as possible about it. However, due to my small following, this video won't reach most people. So I will ask of you, if you know someone who would benefit from the TSL Junction, please send this video to them so they do not have to suffer any longer. Thank you. But without further ado, let's get to the rundown. So in short, this gate works off two main chambers, as I'm going to call them. The first half is the deacceleration chamber. It removes all acceleration and makes sure the player is moving at the same amount of speed every single time. This isn't required if you're moving at the right speed, I'll leave that for you to decide. If it works without, you don't need it, right? Which removes a whole foundation of height off this and removes that whole front piece. However, it is recommended to put it. And the second half is the swap junction. And just to show you how it works, we're just going to kind of land in here. The player will hit this wall and deaccelerate because it hits a wall, and that deaccelerates the player before going to the tube. And then they fly out of this thing here, and if they're holding crouch, they have a small enough height to fit through this gap, and then that conveyor belt there pushes them into the tube over there. Otherwise, they hit and they fall into the lower one and come out there. So, here's the demo. As you can see, when I hold shift, I come out that side. If I don't hold shift, I come out that side. It is that simple. And you can link this up as many times as you want. So, that is the overview. It's very simple. Let's head on to the tutorial. In order to do this, you are going to need concrete pillars. If you don't have them, you can also make do with your road barriers. You will need road barriers for sure. You will need hypertubes, both the normal hypertubes and the actually you can make do without the floor holes. You do not need the floor holes or the wall holes to make this work. That is just a recommendation. So the only thing you need from the Fix-It shop that's required is your road barriers. I recommend pillars just because they look nicer, like such, but they are not required. This junction functions off the principle of when you're crouch, you're lower than when you're tall, and you have just a slight amount of height difference when you shoot out here, so this sorts it. You will also need foundations unlocked. If you don't have those, why are you bothering with hypertubes? This is a tier 4 thing. But without further ado, let's get into the actual tutorial. So basically, we're just gonna come out here with our foundation. I recommend using concrete foundations. It'll allow you to line everything up. I like them. That's my preference. But whatever you want to use, you can use. Basically, this is 2.5 foundations long. So you can place 2 foundations. Now, for this second foundation here, I recommend you put 2 1-meter foundations. You'll see why later. Like such. So basically, here we have the basic height difference, and our next step is to go ahead and we're just going to wrap around like such. And then place a half foundation if you have it. I recommend you have it. I realize I never said that. That's a thing you need. I place a half foundation, and then my preference is to actually just dismantle this and place a half foundation there. I just like that look, but whatever look you want, it's up to you. Once you have this, you can remove the side pieces because they won't be that important anymore. Our next step is to grab some. If you're only using road barriers, you're going to want to place them here and here and build up. And if you have concrete pillars, do what I'm about to do. You will want a 2 pillars off center, like such, with a gap equal to the size of this little square that you see at the concrete. So that's why I use these. These will allow you to figure out the exact gap and width you need, and it centers everything for you. It's like a nice little grid. And then this will also follow suite all the way down to the ground on both sides. This is just for alignment purposes. You can do this also with road barriers, and now this next part requires road barriers in order to get the right height. We're gonna place 3 road barriers. 1, 2, 3. Remove these 2, and now we have our height control here. our exit will be right on the edge here on that center line. And as you can see, it matches exactly like we have here. We have the basic filtration chamber that filters whether you're crouching or not. And we will add in the receive mechanics next, so how we receive the player from both sides. We don't need these anymore, we can get rid of these. The next step, we're going to actually get rid of this half foundation and get rid of this bottom foundation because it will be helpful. And next, you are going to want to take your conveyor pole. It will be right on this line right here, that is exactly half point. Raise it until you see it in line. You want this to be in line with the floor on both sides. Once you have that, you're going to want to come out, it'll like come out 2 steps and go up to the same height. Now, you can put any tier conveyor belt here. The higher tier conveyor belt you put here, the faster your junction will be when you hold crouch. So I recommend just using whatever the highest tier conveyor belt you have unlocked because it's only going to cost you 1 of whatever your material is for that, so it's not like you're breaking the bank to do so. Once you have that, you can remove the supports and add back the foundation. Alright, so there, that is going to receive us after we crouch here. It will zip us out here, because the issue is if you have a hypertube too close to the wall here, it will suck you through here, through the gap, without care. So this allows us to place our hypertube with the right amount of spacing, and the spacing we can figure out by rotating like this. And you place your hypertube pole right on that little square thing right here. As you can see, that is the perfect gap. It will not trigger until we get there. Your next step is to come down on this gap. Make sure you've put back this foundation so that it's in line with these 2 plates here. And you will put your tube right there in the center of the square that it creates there. Both of these will be entrances, so you can turn them into entrances now. And you will hook them up to however you want to power your build. Just make sure they're not in the way of these drop chambers and stuff. I'm just going to hook it up like that. But for now, I'm not going to hook it up because I don't want noise. Our next step is to create our velocity deceleration chamber. So you're going to pull a hypertube out to middle right here, center of that square. And you will put an entrance on this one here. Then you can pull these 2 long this way, which will allow us to do this same kind of guiding the player design. This just ensures that if the player is holding any direction keys, it doesn't mess with the system, and make sure they always land in the right spot, because we don't want our players going missing and landing in the wrong spot. Now, I recommend putting a wall here. This will just let you kind of figure out the height, because we're entering in at the bottom of this second one in order to get enough height to stop yourself. But this ensures that basically if a player's pressed a button anywhere on in the long tube, this makes sure that their velocity is always the same no matter what. You're going to stack up your road barriers like such and remove the bottom 3 there, and then this will create a nice bonk plate, I don't know. Next, you're going to want to go and find yourself a wall hole, if you have a wall hole. If you don't have a wall hole, you can place a foundation. It will line up at pretty much the same height. It doesn't matter as long as you're hitting a wall and dropping down to there. The height that you drop in doesn't matter too much. This just ensures that we don't have too much velocity. Oh. You're going to want to make sure that that is not where you place it. You place it right here, which is going to be the equivalent of standing a pole like that on a platform. Now, if you want, you can remove the walls. I prefer to leave them on because I think it looks good. Our next step is removing these, because we do not need these. Now that we have that, we have the basics done for this junction. Our next step would be to add our wall, however we so deeply want. You're going to add another half foundation, and so you can use a 1 meter foundation here if you want to. It's just going to be off the grid slightly, and then we will grab our wall, place that there. I mean, this output you can have go wherever you want, whatever height. You can have one top, one bottom. Bottom will be where you go if you don't press a button. Top will be where you go if you crouch. This is how that will work. What you do with the outputs is up to you. Here we're just going to stick them into 2 wall holes, like such. I recommend building these in noodle mode, by the way. It will allow you for much sharper turns, and it'll just make everyone's life easier. And then I am going to, in order to design it like this, if this is the design you want to go for, I am placing a floor hole right there. And we are bringing that floor hole out from here. This is the basics of our junction, and it should function now, should we hook everything up to power. If we drop down here, you should see that we come out that side when we don't hold crouch. And when we do hold crouch, and watch, I'll face another direction just to prove it, we come out the other side. And this is the solution to the pain that Hypertube junctions cause. Stay tuned if you want to learn how to make sure that this is 2-way, because if you notice you can't come in back that way, it would never work. And if not, you can just click off this video. Make sure you share it though, because I want people to not have to suffer through the pain that is the old junction. So, you want to make this bidirectional. And that's a problem, because this is one directional. And so there's this very simple concept that basically functions like such. When you have, we're just going to stack up here, one, to show this. Alright, the way these lines work is you will have your entrance and your exit, like such. And, I mean, you can style this to however you want. This isn't too important. It's very... Oh, well, that placed that way. That's going to be our entrance. This will be our exit. So, the way one-directional loops work is if you're entering in one way, you will hit this and go through. However, if you're exiting this tube, you'll hit an empty entrance and you'll drop down into our second entrance. Kind of like how we stop velocity over there from bugging us, we will be doing the same on this. We will take our pillars or our construction barrier things, stack them up like such. And then we will have our outgoing entrance over there. This here, like such. And then we can just kind of wall this off back here. Don't want to go that high. And that is basically our one-way valve. If they're going the wrong way, it will send them down here and out that tube. If they are going this way, it will suck them into this tube. This basically allows, you can stick this at the entrance of this, and if they're going this way, drop them through here, and they will go to the other direction valve. And basically this allows you to sort people out based on the direction they're facing. They're flowing. I don't know, what's the term for going in a hypertube? Assume it's flowing. And just to prove you that I know what I'm talking about, we're just going to have our output here. We're going to have an input here. And which way is this facing? Okay, yeah, it is facing the right way. Why doesn't it want to hook in the right way? Alright. We're just going to remantle that because... Alright, and then this will be our other side here. Place that there, just to prove point. We will have our entrances on every single one of these plates, except for this one. Once you're in this one, if you go back, it won't work. but it's already filtered you based on direction, so hopefully you don't have players who are mucking around in their tubes and are relaxing like they should be, because we can do that now thanks to that. And then this one will be our other entrance here, basically allowing us to test our dual-way loops here. And now we are going to power everything here. I have the power cheat on, so that's why there's no factories. This is pure vanilla, by the way. I know this looks modded. This is pure vanilla. You can do this in vanilla. Alright, so I may or may not have forgotten to power that one, but here is the design I'm showing you right now. When we go through here, we come out that side. When we go through here, we come out this tube. And this allows us to sort the direction we are going easily and simply. Now, the only other concept I'm going to show you today is how to merge lines, and it is just a modified version of the directional one, or the two-directional AD gate. However, this one doesn't rely on AD because it's reversed. So in order to do this, it is a one foundation long, just like the AD gate, and you will basically build your AD gate pretty simply like such. This should be the right spacing. And then in order to ensure merge, I will put a set of road barriers. You actually only need the middle one right here. Once again, here we will put a set of road barriers, and these will be our two entrance tubes. And this will be our one exit tube, and this will merge two tubes. So if you want to have a gateway that only goes one way and not the other, this is how to do it. You're reversing, so when you have an input here on these ends, this output will merge with the other one and go back up into this tube with a merge. And otherwise, you can put another one of these there on the other end facing the other direction. This has basically been a crash course in Hypertube logistics. So, thank you guys so much for watching this. It means a lot. This is my first Satisfactory design I'm putting on the internet, and entirely my design. I'm kind of really proud of it, if you couldn't tell. But thank you. It means a lot, and hopefully I have saved you guys a ton of pain in your God, I'm blanking. Hopefully I've saved you guys a ton of pain in your Hypertube lines. That's been it from me. I've been Test Subject Lizzie, and I hope you have a good day.